This week on the Nittany Dispatch, we discuss Penn State's opening to fall camp and my story on James Franklin. This week on the Nittany Dispatch. Hello and welcome to the Nittany Dispatch. I am John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder of Inside the Lions, which you can subscribe to, by the way, now on Substack. Those of you watching on YouTube, you can see Audrey has the link there that you can type into your browser and find Inside the Lions. Highly recommend it. Wrong side. There you go, Audrey.
Got it.
I am a subscriber already. You know, easy decision for someone covering the team. You want to read the coverage of the other people, and Audrey's one of the best doing it. So without question, easy decision, something I would recommend you do as well. If you need a link to it, you can find it on her Twitter and Blue Sky, and she has posted the stories there that you can read as a subscriber. They're fantastic.
I will hop in there, John. I appreciate the warm intro, as always.
As always, easy there.
As always, yeah. No, I just want to start by thanking everybody, listeners, readers, people that have followed my career. It's been an interesting, very bizarre summer and spring for me. I mean, most of you know, like, I lost my job in The Athletic in April, and it was surprising. I was not anticipating it at all. And kind of going into this year, you know, we all know the expectations, the hype surrounding Penn State football. I was scrambling, trying to figure out, what do I want to do? Do I still want to do this? Kind of bigger picture, like what's next in my career and all those kinds of things. But the support from Penn State fans has been tremendous. I mean, there have been so many awesome interactions during a really shitty scenario. You know, just fans coming up to me at the spring game when I live in State College, fans coming up to me downtown. What are you going to do next? Let us know wherever you go. We'd love to follow you. We'd love to subscribe. And truly that means a ton, because I, for the longest time, was not convinced on doing this and going into business for myself, because it is terrifying and you do not know what happens when you hit the publish button, if people are actually going to read your work and subscribe and follow along. And we're just a few days into this thing on Substack, and so far the response has been incredible. I believe in this place. I believe this fan base wants dedicated coverage. And I just am so happy that I'm able to provide that for you all at insidethelions.substack.com. We're having a lot of fun over there. John and I are still going to keep this podcast going. That is another thing that has come up during the last several months. And from the get-go, I said, even when I did not know the answer, I was lying to you all. I was like, yeah, we're going to keep the podcast going. But that's because we enjoy doing it, and we're going to keep the pregame, the postgame episodes are going to be free, open to everybody. But if you subscribe to insidethelions.substack.com, you will be getting bonus episodes. I look forward to taking you all more so behind the scenes with extra interviews that I'm going to be doing, whether it's with former players, that kind of thing. But before we dive back into football, I just wanted to say that, to thank you all so much. And thank you to the guy across the screen from me, if you're watching this on YouTube. John, as many people on this beat, have been wonderful friends throughout this whole ordeal. And truly, I appreciate it. And we're going to spotlight some of John's work today, now that I've sucked up enough oxygen on the show.
Well, I think it's important to note that what the subscribers and listeners have really done is just proven me right. And that's what I love more than anything in this world. Because I have told Audrey for a long time that if she went into business for herself, that it would go really well. And she doubted it. And again, everyone here to just back me up and prove me right. And that, at the end of the day, that's all that anyone really cares about, is that I'm right in this situation.
So far, you've been right, John. So far, we are off to a hot start on Substack. And again, I'm committed to covering this thing the right way, which means going on the road, every home game, every away game, I'm going to be there. So really nothing on that front changes. And you guys will still get John and I bleary-eyed after night games, chatting with you all on here. But again, the subscription at Substack totally powers the entire operation. Like, that right now is my full-time job. And the support has been awesome. You can join as a free member. You can also join for as little as $8 a month or $65 a year. So again, that is where you will always find my best work, but we will still give you guys some good juice on here as well.
Yes, always. And I am grateful that you are still on the beat. The beat is always better with you on it, and I will do no more gassing up of you after that. But yeah, it is great to be back. This has been a whirlwind of an off season. I talked to a lot of people who, usually we get to like May and I'm like, all right, like we can kind of tone it down a little bit. And it just never felt like that this year, especially with the expectations around this team, with everything going on. And it's August. like the season starts this month in less than 4 weeks. I was talking to someone with Penn State yesterday about like the kind of scheduling on our stuff, like what the next few weeks looks like, and they were like, yeah, it's 3 practices and then it's game week essentially now, which is pretty crazy that we're here, but we are here, and we got to talk to a bunch of people yesterday at Penn State's local media day, which is always a very helpful event. I think something we all plan around plan our coverage around a lot heading into the season, and have some important conversations that I think we can shed some light on. Saw practice yesterday for the first time this fall.
Saw inside Beaver Stadium what the renovation looks like.
Yeah, some of us didn't really want to look up at the terrifying temporary seating as much as others. I'm curious to see how many videos were recorded that you can hear me terrified in the background of just giving my genuine opinions about whether or not I would ever go up there. But I'm afraid of heights. People will be sitting up there and they will be fine. They will be enjoying the game. But I will cede the floor to you, Audrey. We can go practice. We can talk about interviews, podium sessions, whatever you want. What stood out to you most from Saturday?
So it was great to be back. Media day is always one of my favorite days of the year because we get about 50 minutes where we can talk to just about anybody on the roster. And if you are beat writers like John and I, like that is like Christmas Day. It's like I go in every year with a plan. Hear the people who I want to talk to, hear the story ideas I'm working on, and what different voices do I need for other stories that are in the works. Because that powers the preseason coverage. And the one overarching theme, which is held true all of this offseason, and I sat down with James Franklin earlier this summer when I believe I phrased it to him as, I have no idea where this Q&A is going to end up, but like I really appreciate your time sitting down with me, which he agreed to do so. And he said it then, he said it again Saturday, like the expectations are the expectation, right? Penn State every single year comes in expecting to win a national championship, as they should, as every team should, right? Realistically, you only have, maybe 10 teams that can truly be in that conversation, and Penn State's one of them. But the fact that James Franklin said yesterday, he's like, listen, I'm not going to I'm not going to frame the preseason rankings and hang them in the man cave. Like,
yes,
they do not care. The overarching theme for me yesterday was that everything, despite all of the hype, feels very normal. Like, practice felt normal. Interviews felt very normal. Like, it was loose. It was fun. It was free flowing. Like, James Franklin was super hands-on at practice as always. Like, the outside noise, the outside hype expectations, like, cool, that's there. Like Franklin told me in the spring, and the Q&A is up on insidethelions.substack.com. This is like an honor to be in the conversation. He's like, right? He's like, I'm proud that we got here. But again, it's the preseason. Like, it's a ranking, and you know that they're going to be good. So I just thought it was refreshing that everything looked and felt normal.
Yeah, and this was a theme out at Big Ten Media Days in Vegas too, right? Like, because I was going around asking out there, Zakee Wheatley, Drew Allard, Nick Dawkins about kind of these expectations, what it feels like. I asked James about them too, and this has been not just yesterday at local media day, but at media days, and I think their whole offseason is centered around like everyone else is just noticing what like Penn State fans have expected this entire time, right? Like, they're expected to compete for national titles. And so I wonder, there are times that, coaches and players say stuff, and I'm not talking just about Penn State, I'm talking about across the board in sports, right? And you're like, okay, like, I don't really believe you, like you're saying this, it feels like you're saying it because
Cleveland Browns are talking about winning a Super Bowl right now. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
But like, where they're talking about things like, that their expectations aren't changed or whatever, that they're not acknowledged, whatever, like all of that kind of stuff. Whether or not you believe them is up to you. I generally just assume like you're saying it because you feel like it's the right thing to say. It feels real with this team. This team feels like they don't have any different expectations than they usually do. That they talk about being appreciative, like of the rankings, and that it's cool to see that stuff. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Nick Dawkins was actually great about this in Las Vegas. He was talking about, like, it just doesn't mean anything. He's like, I don't care. Like, every time he got asked about something broad, it was like he was like being polite and respectful to the person asking the question and trying to give a reasonable answer, but you could just see it in his voice. Like, he does not care about the preseason expectations, that they all expect the best every year, and that this doesn't really change that. And they're, not going to change their approach or how they do things because of it. That being said, Zakee Wheatley said out there that this, like, there are, there's a different energy this offseason to the way guys are working, the way that, like, the kind of motivation is across the board, that everyone, like, can see it within their sights almost, that they can get there. And so while I do genuinely think that not much has changed, I think there's almost a level of acknowledgement that, like, their eyes are set on something that they're much closer to than usual, right? Like, they always aspire to and expect to do these things, but now they can really see it, and they are not that far away from, or not, they're closer than anybody in the country, I would argue, to reaching that ultimate goal of winning a national title.
Yeah, and the fact that they know what it takes to get there, right? Like, the way last season ended, I know as much as fans don't want to hear about it, don't want to be reminded about it, neither do players. That is part of this, and that is part of the fact of why so many of these guys came back, right? James Franklin, when him and I sat down this summer, I said, I was like, nationally, there's this narrative that you guys are, like, quote unquote running it back, right? And, like, and I said to him, I was like, I think guys always come back for different reasons. And he's like, yeah, he's like, no coach thinks of it as running it back. And he goes, we know, like, what it's going to take to get back to that point. And sure, like, we're starting on a higher floor, right, this year because you return all this production. But at the end of the day, like, you've got to get back there. And it's a long season. And I think the point that Franklin made Saturday as well, which was, hey, one, not enough people are talking about Khalil Dinkins. We got our first not enough people are talking about example of the year. I love those. Tight end Khalil Dinkins, got a shout out. But also, he's like, we're going to need that sixth offensive lineman. We're going to need that fifth defensive back. We're going to need, like, all of these depth pieces. It goes into constructing your roster, and it goes into everything that you have to put in to try and get back to Miami and this year try and win the whole thing. I mean, I just think it's a really good perspective of, like, this isn't, you're not playing a video game, right? Like, you're not just constructing a roster and this and that, or you're not just compiling and trying to hoard talent. Like, you need to put those pieces together. And that's what Penn State's doing on the Lash practice fields right now. Like, these are kind of the dog days of summer, as they say, right? Like, it's early August. They'll be in the stadium here shortly, but you're just grinding right now. I mean, Penn State classes don't start till August 25th for the fall semester, so it is a lot of football right now, which is why everyone is here. And James Franklin said, the players have said, like, yeah, you come to Penn State to win a national championship. You come to Penn State because the expectations are so high. You come to Penn State because people care a hell of a lot, right? It's Trevor Pena committing publicly to this team ahead of the blue-white game, only to then say, yeah, I'm walking out and fans are recognizing me in the parking lot because people are that plugged in. He's like, it's different. And again, you and I, we live here. We see it year round. We went to school here, so we know the ins and outs of this place. And there is just an excitement level that you can feel through every corner of this community right now.
Yeah, almost like it's worth covering on a day-to-day basis,
I believe it.
It feels like certain places made the decision not to do that, and I often think about that decision. But yeah, we'll leave that there.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. No, I think some people make better decisions than others. I put that way. But you mentioned the sort of putting the pieces together of this, right? And I think that one of the biggest parts of that right now is Jim Knowles and putting the defense together. And I asked James about this yesterday, kind of how Knowles has done with, like, kind of blending the Penn State defense and the Jim Knowles defense. And, he talked about, like, they always look for kind of the certain touch points of similarity, right? So it's a little bit easier anyways, but he said that they're in a good spot essentially. And, that they feel good about it. I talked to Jim Knowles about this too. And I think, it's funny you mentioned that fifth defensive back. I don't think that one's a depth piece this year. That's a starter. And that is I would argue, one of the most important spots on the defense, if not the most important. Knowles, he likes to use it essentially as a chess piece. I've talked about this with him a lot. Like pretty much every time I get the chance to talk to him, I bring up that fifth defensive back because I'm fascinated to see what he does and how he changes things. And James had mentioned that they're going to change some things up front too. It's not just going to be the secondary. Like there will be the way they handle gap responsibilities is different in this defense, which it makes sense. There's a lot more read and react rather than just like straight gap assignment. But with the secondary specifically, that fifth player is going to be crucial. And right now, if I had to guess, I would think that's going to be Zion Tracy, which I think is a good sign, one, of where the college game is at, because in Knowles' original version of the 4-2-5, I talked with him about like where he got it from, and essentially talked about how he got it from Gary Patterson at TCU and how he kind of has evolved it over time, and it's become more of a coverage player than someone down in the box all the time, which makes sense with Tracy. But it's a type of player who has a lot of responsibility mentally too, right? Like they have to be able to do a lot of things on defense. And I think right now that if it's Tracy or whoever it is, that's going to be one of the most important positions on the field. And if Tracy takes a step and like becomes a high level player, which I thought he looked good last year. I thought he had taken, some steps forward. He had, obviously we all remember the Peach Bowl, right? Where he sort of had the kind of, every corner had a rough performance basically because they were put on the spot that they weren't ready for in their progression. But, I think Tracy has a chance to be a legitimate difference maker for the defense this year. And Noah's actually mentioned he hadn't gotten to see him in spring because he was banged up, but through 2 practices that he had really impressed him this fall.
Yeah, and you're teeing me up here, John, because you mentioned Zion Tracy, and somebody who I spent a good amount of time chatting with at Media Day was King Mack. King Mack is back, right? I'll make that joke all year.
Boo, boo.
The safety, as I'm sure many Penn State fans remember, comes to Penn State, plays his freshman year, looks promising, enters the transfer portal after spring ball of his freshman year, heads to Alabama, has a cup of coffee with the Crimson Tide, hits the transfer portal again this past winter, and comes back to Penn State for spring ball. And this was our first chance chatting with King Mack since he returned. And I had him one-on-one for a good while. Again, all the details are up over on Substack, but it's interesting to me, again, and the way I love to cover this program is from like the human element, right? The human perspective. The goal, and it's the same thing now, I want readers, listeners to know more about the people they're rooting for, right? It's the person behind the helmet. And the fact that King Mack was in Alabama's training room last year during Penn State, Ohio State, watching Zion Tracy's pick 6, and Tracy was his roommate before he left. King Mack said he was losing his mind watching this pick 6. Like, that to me speaks to what we had heard throughout the spring, where James Franklin was like, yeah, King Mack left, but he never really left, right? He still was close with a lot of these guys. He went to the Orange Bowl as a fan and was telling me he hoped that he would fly under the radar. So he wore a Penn State hoodie, was seated behind the parent section, and he said he was actually right next to Omari Evans's dad, but Omari's dad did not recognize him. And I said, yeah, that's interesting. Like, you're trying to come back and Omari's on the way out, right? College football 2025, here we are. But yeah, Zion Tracy is going to be a pivotal piece here, and I think King Mack is too. I mean, you look at it, I asked James Franklin about safeties and kind of what's going to happen opposite Zakee Wheatley, and that's just going to be, again, that's one of those camp competitions, right? And they've got a few like truly interesting camp competitions, right? When you look at right tackle, when you look at safety, the number 2 quarterback spot, the number 3 running back, like I know we always hear every job's up for grabs, but Tracy and Mack are among the more interesting pieces, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think, the most interesting offensive one, and that's right tackle. And I think there is a solution there where both guys see the field. And, I saw that in practice yesterday where Anthony Donko was taking reps at right guard, excuse me. And that feels like the simplest solution to get both him and Nolan Rucci on the field. Donko was a guard. Like, I don't think anyone expected him to be a tackle until his Peach Bowl practices, actually, where they tried him there, and it was like, whoa, like he's really good at this. And
The
looked to
Olu
be,
Fashanu, the injury and that whole
yeah,
accelerated, yeah.
yep, and it put him in position to excel at right tackle, and now if getting their best five out there means putting him at right guard, I think that's a good place to be. Nolan Rucci is a quality starting tackle. Obviously, Drew Shelton is too, but I think this is a way to allow them to get their best five out there. What it means for Cooper Cousins, I would think, is probably rotating in or trying to win one of those jobs from Donko, Venga Ioane and Nick Dawkins. I don't know that he will, because those are three very good interior offensive linemen, but having six guys that you trust to play pretty much across the group, and having the flexibility where if someone goes down, you can move, like if something happened to Drew Shelton, you can move Rucci to left tackle and get Donka out at right tackle, and Cousins slots in at guard. If something happens on the interior, then Cousins just slots in, right? Like you have a chance to be versatile in that way, that you're kind of injury proofed, at least to one, right? Like you can get a starting level player in there right away if something happens. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Donka is the starting right guard when the season begins. And I think it points to something that's been the case for a couple of years now, and that's that this Penn State offensive line is really, really good, bordering on elite, I would say. And the less we talk about them, usually the better. And not a lot of conversations going on about them right now.
Well, I wanted to check my notes on this, John, because this is actually something, when I sat down with James Franklin, the premise of my interview, and there's other stuff that I have from that interview that I'm saving for closer to the season, but the premise was how far this program has come since the day he got here, right? The nights sleeping in the office, the shorthanded offensive line, the job rumors, right? The expectations, the fan frustrations, all of that. And him and I spent a lot of time talking about building that offensive line and how you had to revamp it. But he was asked again on Saturday about this. And James Franklin said, and this is why I wanted to check my notes, that he would have loved to have you, John Sauber, 12 years ago. And James Franklin said, direct quote, he'd have been starting at center. Just don't have very long arms. You have trouble reaching the keyboard right there, to be honest with you.
Time out. Listen, to be clear, the transcript does not include me saying I do have good size, which was true and is true now. Although
you got edited out.
Yeah, at that point in my life, I think I was probably more linebacker size than center size like I am now. But my arms are not that short. I do have small hands. It's unfortunate. But I watched A.Q. Shipley play elite center at Penn State with tiny arms.
John T-Rex Sauber.
Yeah, I can already tell this is going to be a thing, which is fine. But it is a good indication of just how far that offensive line has come. And I should have told James back in 2014, he could have had me on the team. I was on campus at Penn State as a student. Just was getting.
They were not down that bad.
No, they were not. Although it was kind of close with how bad things had gotten. But no, I think that interaction, all of that points to a very loose James Franklin, someone who's comfortable with who he is. I will talk about this in a little bit, but like someone who has been through a lot and has overcome a lot and is like reached a point in his life where I don't know that he was there when he first became a head coach or when he first got to Penn State, where he is so in tune with who he is that he doesn't feel the need to be anything else anymore, or to pitch anything, I guess, like to, and I think there's a lot of that has been misconstrued anyways. Like, people have said stuff about him in the past, like, a lot of the derogatory stuff about, he's just selling stuff, you know what I mean? Like, used cars, whatever, all that stuff. Like, I think that's probably...
He was hard charging out of the gate. As someone who was in there at that intro presser, it was like, whoa, he's going to blow up balloons at birthday parties. But in fairness to him, he was coming from Vanderbilt where he had to be that. Right?
And I think part of that is misunderstanding who he is and misattributing it to, like, he's just trying to sell it, right? Like, when he believes in something, he really believes in it. And I think that just is another example of that. We can get into more of that in a little bit. Is there anything you saw from practice before we get there that stood out?
We saw the wide receivers. That was a big day for us.
Matthew Otten, still huge.
You know what? You and I were not standing near each other at practice, but I did see, when I saw Otten running around, I thought, there's John's guy. He's out there, still very, very large human. Um, Caden Saunders, we can mention that.
Yes.
Caden Saunders is dealing with a long-term injury. So again,
Wouldn't
not
expect to
the
see him in
news.
2025. It is a bummer, right? Like
Yeah,
I mean,
not the news you want.
we've interacted with Caden a lot over the last 4+ years. Like it's always been fantastic. The injuries though have
Yeah.
been overwhelming for him. Basically, he's been dealing with nagging injuries for a long time, and now this, like, you never want to see this for anyone, but with him specifically, it seems like he just kind of can't get over the injury bug. Can't get past
Mhm.
that, and this is
Yeah.
the latest in that line.
And I asked Marcus Higgins about that, and I said, "Hey, like we know it's out there. James talked about it." And Higgins said, "Yeah, like you can call it tough luck, whatever you want to call it, but it's just really hard to see a player consistently have to go through this. Like on the coach level, on the personal level, like they all see all the work that Caden put in, and Caden was really candid with us this winter and spring, talking about just how much this season was going to mean to him and coming back and how difficult it was to watch last year unfold from afar. And he is still like around the team. And Higgins said he's done a really good job of like trying to help them in practice, finding ways to impact that receiving room, even though he's not, and can't be out on the field. So yeah, that's one of those bummers that you hope you want to come through the preseason as healthy as you can. So that's again also impacts the punt return game, which Devontae Ross was still going to be a factor there
Zion
eventually
Tracy too.
too. Zion Tracy, yeah, I mean they do have other options there,
Trevor
but
Payne is very good as a returner. Like they have options.
yeah, I was impressed by Pena with what we saw yesterday. When I sat down with Drew Aller this summer, and all of that story coming for you all on Inside the Lions this week, he was really forward about what he liked about Pena and the fact that, as Higgins told me yesterday, like this guy's a pro, and he's kind of helping set the tenor in that meeting room. And again, to Pena's credit, he watched Penn State last year when he was in the transfer portal. He was telling me that, he did his homework and it was overwhelming. But all of those guys, and we heard it in the spring, we heard it in the summer, they're not attached to last year. They're not attached to 2 years ago. It's pretty much like, hey, we've revamped most of this room. We don't want to go backward. Like, we're going to do our best to move forward. And I know Penn State fans are tired of hearing about it. You and I are tired of talking and writing about it. But it is just one of those narratives around this team that until the receiving corps becomes a strength, we're going to keep having to ask and talk and write about it.
And I think that'll be Oregon when that conversation dies down. I think this group of receivers, Devontae Ross, Kyron Hudson, Trevor Pena, I expect those to be the three starters. I know people have been effusive with praise for Liam Clifford, who has always been like, helpful in the room, has been kind of the closest thing to consistent that the team has had in recent years. But I still think that those three guys are a step ahead. Even someone like Kobe Howard, who is making waves. I think Otten has upside down the line. Like I think the room is in a really good spot moving forward. And I think it was James who said it about kind of this group allows them to bridge the gap a little bit. Like this group of transfers allows the younger guys in the room to take the next step and not have all that pressure. Like Kobe Howard and Tyzer Denmark don't have to be the focal point of the offense this year. And then I think that's going to be really big for them. I am curious to see. So Devontae Ross was not doing sled work when we were in there yesterday, had something on his arm, right? Looked like on his bicep. He was doing routes on air, like he was doing the other stuff while we were in there. I would not be concerned about his long-term health or whatever. You know what I mean? Like by the time Penn State needs him, I would expect Devontae Ross to be fully ready to go at this point. Obviously things can change, but like I'm not overly concerned because I know obviously people saw about like that he was not participating in sled work. People get concerned, all that stuff. But I would anticipate that by the time it matters, Ross is good to go, and that they have him, Hudson, and Pena as the three starters. Frankly, I would be stunned at this point if any other receiver was starting for them. Maybe they go 12 personnel and they're only starting.
That's just what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. But like if when they go to 11 personnel, like I expect it to be those three guys.
Yeah, and James Franklin said the tight end room because of course that's the big what is this offense without Tyler Warren? That's the big question mark. That's what they're working through. Khalil Dinkins, Luke Reynolds. We saw Andrew Rapplier back out there on Saturday. They've got guys, they've got talent, but again, it comes back to getting your best personnel on the field, and that's as cliche as it is, it's incredibly true here. And if, we've heard it before, but if that third receiver isn't as good as the second tight end, well, what do you think Penn State's going to do, right? They're going to play the tight end. And so, yeah, I mean, that receiving core kind of is what it is until we get eyes on them in a live scenario against someone that they don't practice against every day. Like that's going to be really great. And honestly, with the
They do have
non-conference
a good
schedules,
test though with AJ Harris every day in practice, who is,
yes,
in my mind, the best corner in the country.
yes, your man crush with AJ Harris has held true. And again, I think AJ Harris is going to be really, really good again this year too. So I'm not leaving you on an island there.
Yeah.
But I mean, we also did see on the injury front, Tony Rojas was back on the practice field, and James Franklin said, that Rojas was somebody who was not out there this spring because he had a procedure done over the winter, a cleanup thing.
We saw him in a sling too, not long after the season ended.
Yes. Yep. Because that was at I think a basketball game.
It was Penn State's return to rec, which didn't
right.
go well.
Yeah, I was at that because I remember I was at that and I remember looking and I was like, oh, well, here we are. And Tony Rojas is in a sling. James Franklin said that the injuries, once they really get going, full pads, like then they'll have a better idea on some of these guys who are, working their way back from spring injuries and that kind of thing. The other part of this is like, I'm going to tee us up for some stadium talk real quick, but the fact that, you're on the practice field over at Lash and you look across the street, and it's hard to miss that we are less than a month from the season opener. Beaver Stadium is well in the midst of a renovation project. You can see the west side, the old press box side. You can see those seats going in. They are steep.
Like I said in the intro, I will not be looking at those much.
Yeah, they're dizzying. I will say, like, again, it looks rough right now, but it's also done. Like, right, we're seeing the sausage get made. And unless fans are living under a rock and aren't seeing the posts and the stuff on Twitter and all of that, like, you might be better off just not looking and just waiting until, hey, it's the week before the season opener. It's the season opener.
So my anticipation is that whatever's going to be done before the season will be done by August 16th. So essentially about 2 weeks. They still have to until Penn State gets the stadium back.
John, what did you think of the view inside the stadium? I mean, obviously we covered the fact that it's steep. We know that Penn State earlier this summer announced that they're doing season like special single season ticket sales, I guess you want to call it.
Yeah, in the northeast and southeast corners too. Mm-hmm. Like that, I think that to me is the biggest thing that this is something that I had heard about back in, I want to say January, that they were, I think I'd put it in a story at that point. I don't really remember. It was a while ago that they were planning on
the plan.
To have those northeast and southeast temporary bleachers to kind of keep capacity close to what it is or what it usually is. That 106,000 number. Is it 106,752? I think is the official capacity.
Yeah, I mean, and the fluctuation on that, because John knows how much I love talking about attendance.
Yes,
is that everybody in the building gets counted. So
yes,
I'm 1, John's 2.
That feels
John's
like
T-Rex arms are still part of 2.
I was going to say I still account. It's 106,572. Thank you for vamping long enough to let me Google that. But yeah, they're going to try and be as close to that number as they can throughout this process, because it'll be the case in 2026 too. But yeah, I think that side of the stadium is going to, like, this is much closer to what it'll look like when the whole thing is done because of the steepness, right? Like that west side of the stadium is going to be steeper, and I'll be curious to see kind of how it fits with the rest of the stadium, because it is going to look not out of place, but it is going to look different than the rest of the bowl because it's not as connected. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's more to it.
You're getting a better vantage point of being over the field, right?
Yes.
Which I think, I'm not a scientist clearly, but volume wise, right? Like, I don't know if that's going to make it louder because the way that's going to be set up.
So I think it will, based on talking to people. helpful. Again, also don't fully understand these things, but I think it will, and that'll be a big part of that.
I'm gonna have to contact like a noise expert or something. Someone to
Dibs.
explain this to
No,
me.
too late. Dibs.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll be like,
writing.
excuse me, what is, yeah, wait, are you a crowd noise expert?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know what, we're going to have a different vantage point as we've known for a long time.
Yep.
The press box is flipping over to the other side, which actually I tweeted out a photo of that on Saturday. We're on the end corner right near those outdoor seats. They've started reconfiguring that, which again, just creatures of habit. This will be my 16th season covering Penn State football. And I fact checked that detail like 5 times the other day because I'm like, there's no way it's been 16. No way.
I was gonna say this is my 7th entirely. 5th is the primary beat writer, I believe. Which
yeah, see, John, you got time to catch up. But where I was going with this, as I try to land the plane, our view is going to be different. We're going to be looking in behind the Penn State bench, which again, I'm taking 15 years of looking at the other side.
Yeah.
It's going to be different, but you know, it's been interesting to see this renovation just from very close up, like you and I have, just again with living here. Like I was running errands Friday afternoon, and it just kind of like struck me. I was like, wow, like this looks really different. Just the whole west bleachers and the exterior, and then I was like, well, that's just where they're at right now, and that's where they're going to be. You know, you pause construction really soon, as you alluded to, once the season gets close, and then immediately after, wherever this season ends, you got to start ramping it back up again. And next year it'll be, you know, kind of different projects, but same thing on this ongoing construction site. So yeah, I think fans will be excited to get the inside look that we did too.
Seeing that day to day is just another important aspect of having somebody here, having a beat writer here. And I couldn't imagine making the decision ahead of what could be a national championship season to not do that. I think that's wild. I think that you and I traveling to every away game, being at every media availability, is a massive advantage. And I, for one, could not imagine a company that claims to cover college football deciding not to do that. It's wild.
Next question.
That's right. I can say things. Like I can say whatever I want.
Yeah. So, John, since it's your turn to talk, let me pivot to you had a wonderful story up this past week on the Center Daily Times about James Franklin and digging deep into James the person, James the human being, James the side that most people don't often see or know or realize or understand. So I'm going to open the floor to you to however you want to address it. I encourage people to check it out on the centerdailytimes.com. It's a fantastic story. So much so that I gave John my highest honor, which was a retweet. But no, it's a wonderful, wonderful story, and also really well and delicately told, which is an important part of this job and this business. So floor's yours.
Yeah. So part of this story is feeling like you have the ability to tell it, right? And unfortunately, there are some shared experiences that James and I have that make it a little easier for me to tell some of his story. But this is something that I've been aware of for a while. I had wanted to tell this story for a while, but it's not something that you request like in your first year covering the team, right? Like you have to build trust. Not just James, but people in the, like, you know what I mean? Like it like you said, it's a delicate story. And I'm grateful that he trusted me with it. I'm grateful that he was open with me about it. There are a couple times, you know, during the interview where, you know, he would say like, well, you probably don't understand. And then he would stop me like, well, you probably understand. You know what I mean? Like there was this level of connection with that kind of stuff that I think empathy is so important in telling any story like this, but specifically something, you know, with someone that has been through a lot like he has. I remember going into it thinking, you know, is this just going to be like baseline level? He doesn't really want to talk about it. And we weren't, the interview originally wasn't supposed to be that long, and we just kept going and going and going. Right. Like, and he was, as, you know, he was far more open than I ever anticipated. he answered everything. Like there was no avoidance of anything. There was no hiding from any of it. I remember like him sharing some of the specific details. It's you're having a so people it's weird to call it an interview, right? Like it's weird to say that that's what it was because it was just a
It's a
conversation.
conversation. Yeah.
So much of this job is not really interviewing. It's just talking to people. And this was just, we sat and talked for an hour, maybe a little under an hour, a little over an hour, somewhere around there about this. And I just, I was, it's so interesting to hear him tell this story now and watching the change in emotion in his voice. And I tried to articulate this best I could, but I don't know that you can really put into words, how like seeing the emotions in some ways, of what he was feeling about it. Like there's a line in there about so essentially what happened is, so James is I'll give you a cliff notes again. I would encourage anyone to go to centerdaily.com and read the story. Put a lot of time and effort into it, months of effort, a lot of interviews with people. James had an abusive and alcoholic father who was in and out of his life until in 11th grade. James put a stop to it by physically intervening. And he told me that this was one of the, like when he looked at me and said this, he just said, I was bigger than him. And that was it. Like, that's what changed. But then, financial hardships, all sorts of things, James working odd jobs, trying to help his family and everything. And it kind of comes together with this reconciliation between where James essentially not forced, but got his father to apologize to him, his mom, and his sister, which he told me, I didn't have this in the story, but he told me over and over and over again that this in his life is the best thing he's ever done, right? Like this is like, it was clearly so important to him that his mom and his sister got an apology that they deserved. And I remember the line in there, one of the things he said was something along the lines of like, he apologized for some of the foul shit that he had done, talking about his father, and the tone in his voice changed when he said that, right? Like you could see some of the anger. Like it's reasonable to be angry about something like that. You could see some of the anger about it still, right? And he talked about how it wasn't really forgiveness, right? It was just closure. Like it wasn't true forgiveness because he's not going to forgive him for some of those things, but he again, credit to him, was incredibly open the entire time. I just, again, grateful he gave me the chance to tell that story. Grateful as he was as open, honest as he was. And yeah, I don't know, this was it was heavy, right? Like it's obviously heavy to write, it's heavy to talk to him about, it's heavy to have conversations with other people about. And the reception, by the way, too, I want to thank everyone who's commented on it, all that stuff, everyone who's read it. Like that's been really cool to see something like that. But yeah, this is it changed my perspective on him, I think.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, do you think James Franklin is misunderstood?
Yes, without a
Why?
doubt. So it's funny, the headline of the story starts with understanding James Franklin. Like that's all I wanted it to be, right? Like with SEO, that's not how that stuff works. But if you look at the print edition, it is like just understanding James Franklin.
As someone who has spent her summer in web design
Yes.
and learning search engine optimization, I can tell you, John, that headline is not going to cut it.
Yeah, but like that's what I want, right? Like because that's how I came out of this feeling. Like all of the quirks, the like people say he's, people have called him odd. People have called him, like they think
Aren't
he's
we all odd? I mean, isn't
right.
that the other
Yes,
piece, right? Like,
yes, but like people have called him disingenuous, and I think that's the thing that people just get the most wrong, because the people that he cares about, like he is so all in on the people that he cares the most about. Like he does not keep a large circle, right? That's something that struck me
yes.
too. Both of his parents were dead when by the time he was 35, or by the time he was 36, I think. So he was 35 at the time when his mom died. And like he had this small circle, but his wife Fumi, his daughters Addie and Shola, like his close friends Mike Santella, Mighty Gardner, like these people who mean so much to him, like he is so all in on them that he would do anything for them. And I think that goes to some of the misunderstanding. Like people think he's not being genuine when he does stuff. I came away from this feeling like that is just who he is, right? Like when he's in on someone, he's in on them. And to go back to that too, like I remember, so, it's at stories like this, like you usually ask, like, hey, who else should I talk to? Right. Like, and I asked him that,
The
and he,
magic question is what we call it in intro to news writing. Yeah. Who else should I
right.
reach out to?
Like,
Yeah.
and at this was towards the end of us having our conversation. And he paused and he thought for a while, and he goes, I promise I'm not like stalling or like not,
Yeah.
as he's like, so many of these people are dead, right? Like so many people to talk to about him are dead, and he doesn't have, as many of those people in his life. And I think that was like a really jarring, like it to me anyways, from the way I perceive him, kind of clicked in that moment, right? Like all of these people he cares about, he's lost so many of them, right? And he
Yeah.
doesn't let a ton of people in, so that circle keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until it, you know what I mean? Like it's his wife, his daughters, and like his closest friends and the people that are that close with him. But yeah, I think he's misunderstood, because I think I there are times where I thought he was inauthentic in the past, and I think I was misguided for thinking that, right? Like I think I came away from this, and this is why I wanted this to be the headline. I came away from this understanding him better. Like I think I told you this. So I talked to, full disclosure, for a little inside baseball for the listeners. Right after I finished the sit down with him, I went and grabbed drinks with Audrey.
Yeah.
At
What else did I have going on?
Right, yeah, you weren't busy,
I
and
had some
so
time on my hands.
we were talking about it, and I just remember, like, it felt like it clicked, right? Like I think I told
Mhm.
you that, like, it all clicked in that moment. Like I just get it now. Like I get all of it, like all of the, like, everything that he's done, like a lot of the way he communicates with people, the way he handles his job, the way he views his job, the way he interacts with us, like all of it, like in that moment, made more sense to me than it ever has before. And I hope that is what people get from this story. One, I hope it, obviously, you hope it helps other people who go through something similar.
Mhm.
But two, like I hope people understand him more now, right? Like, and I think that has been some of the impact. Like I said, I hope it has, but yeah, I think I just came away from this, like it was like a light bulb moment for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, like I get it now.
And that is one of the the details that to me is so fascinating just with our jobs, right? Our jobs are weird when you think about it,
Yes,
right? Sure, like people are like, oh, you're right about sports. It's fun. It's great. Yeah, it is. But you're also trying to understand the people that you cover and what makes them tick, what makes them who they are. And again, I've been here since before James Franklin got here, right? And that day he stepped off the plane, it was like he just had this energy that I was at Penn Live at the time, and I remember just being like, man, this guy, like, he's selling so hard. And I think a lot of that was honestly just not knowing the place, just in terms of like,
yes,
okay, and this job means a lot to you. So you have to show you that you care. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to go all in with my energy because that's what I did at my last job, right? And it's also like you're young and you're trying to figure it out, right? And I think that's the other part of this is that he's older now. He's been in the business a long time. And I think we all, as human beings, probably get to this point in our lives where we're just like, we don't care, right? And I'm not saying we don't care about those around us, but like, you don't care what other people think. You
you
don't care what
don't have
other people.
perception anymore, right? Like
Yes.
you
Yep.
kind of allow that to no longer be a part of you.
And I think that is kind of what maybe where he's at. Again, I don't know for sure, but maybe this is kind of where he's at because the last couple years it's been like he seemed looser. He seemed kind of more free just in terms of interacting with us. And like again, the difficult piece is trying to convey to an audience, hey, like you might see a snippet of this guy on Twitter. You might see a snippet of this guy on TV. You might see a fan interaction, whatever. Um, that's why, as reporters, we show up to everything because you want to try and get the full scope of the person. And that's the hard part, right? And so when you have those moments like John had, where it's like everything makes sense, you're like, okay, yeah, like now how do I convey that to an audience, right? And that's a
Right.
whole other
It
journalism
was a very
discourse.
stressful couple months. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, same, but for very
Yeah,
different reasons.
I was a little busier.
Yeah.
But no, like yeah, like I don't know. I look at him differently now. You know what I mean? Like you see the person, you don't see the coach as much anymore. I think that's part of it too. Like, and that's something we try so hard to do in general. Like I never want to look at players as players. I just want to look at it as a person, them as a person. I want to look at coaches as a person, right? And it can be hard sometimes, especially when the power dynamic is like it is with a head coach who is one of the highest paid people in the state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's
We're not, John.
yeah, certainly not. I promise you that. But like
Yeah.
it can be difficult when the power dynamic is like that. And this conversation kind of leveled the power dynamic in a way, right? Like having conversations about things that whatever we had both experienced, things like that. And it changes perspective. And he called himself a mama's boy. Mike Santella called him a mama's boy. I am also a mama's boy. And I'm sure my mom is listening to this right now too, as a matter of fact. But like that conversation is like a big part of this, right? Like when I go back to him talking about the loss of his mother, again, more inside baseball on some of the writing aspect of this, like the word that I originally that I went with was that his mom's death damaged him. And my editor, who does a great job, was initially like, "Are you sure this is the right word you want? It's loaded, right? Like it's a heavy word to use." And I said, "This is the appropriate word, right?" Like because I think some of the comfort too that you mentioned from James in recent years is on some level finally getting I don't even know the right word for it, honestly. Like finally accepting the way that his mom's death happened. He wasn't there. He was at Kansas State. I think it was Santella who put it to me like he had Ron Prince as head coach was a bit of a tough coach, and like James wasn't able to be there when his mom died, and I think it damaged him, right? Like I think hearing him talk about it, like it is so clear that is something that impacted him. And I gotta say, I think my favorite thing in the entire story is listening to him, like because I've gone back and listened to it obviously a bunch as I tried to write it and sat down with the story for a couple months. But like listening to him talk about his mom like makes me emotional, right? Like listening because one, it's how obviously again we have this similar perspective. I feel the same way about my mom, but like listening to him talk about it is like this like deeply emotional experience, like him thinking about had she seen him win the Big Ten title, him thinking about what she would do if she was in back in her hometown and her son was a head coach at Penn State in Pennsylvania, like the things she would say, like the pride that she would have in him. Like I had a really hard time listening to him talk about that because it's like something you can be deeply empathetic about. And yeah, I don't know, it humanized him in such a way, and I think it's such a powerful sentiment from him, like it's I hope that the conversation helped him, like right, like part of the difficulty of getting past some of that stuff. But yeah, like I think of all the things I've written, like that is one, this is my favorite story, but that quote from him talking about his mom like was like I don't know, it was to me anyways such a powerful like look into who he is, what she meant to him and means to him, because even she's not here, she so means a lot to him. I think that is like the most powerful thing that he said in the entire story.
Well, now John's leaving me up for a transition here. No, but
Yeah, good luck.
you
As I
should
try not to get emotional talking
you
about my
should
mom. I love you,
definitely
Mom.
check
I know
out.
you are listening to this.
See, now I love my mom too. Now I'm gonna look bad.
Now
'Cause
it doesn't. Yeah,
yeah.
right. Now you're worse for it.
Now I didn't say it soon enough, right? No, I definitely check out John's story over at Center Daily Times. Anything else we didn't touch on? I mean, we'll see the team back on the practice field Thursday.
Yeah, we're here now. It's every week. Once the season starts, we'll be back twice a
Flights are
week.
booked for the season
Flights are
for both
booked.
of us.
Hotels are booked. Cars are booked. All of it. We are
We are in it.
3 weeks and 6 days away.
From Nevada or Nevada?
Nevada. I'll die on that hill gladly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I might be wrong, but I'll die on that hill. It's Nevada. But no, we will be back. Audrey mentioned we watch practice again this week. We'll probably be back after that. Be back at least once a week until the season starts. Then the season will be here. We'll have our midweek episode and our post-game episode back like we never left.
We got to do some kind of like fun, like we did last year, some kind of fun preseason, like a special preseason.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Like
yes.
picks, predictions.
And I will force you to make predictions that you don't want to make. Yes, it's my favorite thing to do in the world.
It's our favorite tradition here. Yeah.
Yes. Like when we both picked them to lose to Texas, I think in the first round of the playoff last year.
We did.
Whoops. But yeah, no, we will be back with all of that. We're very excited to be going through another season covering Penn State, another season of this podcast, our third season doing this, which is also pretty crazy to think about. Very excited for it. Very excited to have, people listening, people watching. This is a lot of fun for us. Hopefully it's fun for you guys as well. This should be a very exciting, noteworthy season. And pretty much no matter what. So
we're here.
Yes.
One way or the other, we're going to be here with you.
And if you enjoyed this episode and you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button, that subscribe button down below. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Those really help us out. If you want to find Audrey's writing, you can subscribe to it at insidethelions.substack.com. She's posted her stories on Twitter, where you can find her at OddSnyder4. She's on Blue Sky if you search Audrey Snyder. Again, cannot recommend it enough. Subscribe to her work. It is fantastic. It is always fantastic. And I, again, can vouch for this as a subscriber. You can find my writing over the Center Daily Times, including that James Franklin story. You can subscribe there as well. That would be very helpful. You can find me on Twitter at John Sauber. You can find me on Blue Sky if you search John Sauber. Again, no H in John, because there never has been. But until next time, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.